It has been over 1 year since Borderlands 3 released. 1 year since one of my most anticipated games of all time came out. And 1 year since I was sad because I didn't get the game because the Epic Store was trash, so I waited another 6 months and it just wasn't good for my anxiety. But in March of 2020, I finally got my chance to play the game when it was released on Steam. I now have over 300 hours in the game and have playtime in every single Vault Hunter. Now that we've had a year to see everything that's happened with the game and a lot of potential for future expansions and content, I thought it was the perfect time to collect my thoughts and go in deep on how I really feel about this game. My name is Kai, welcome to Awesomazing. Let's talk about Borderlands 3. I'm going to timestamp all of my main points of discussion so that I can separate out the spoiler stuff and so that the people who only care about certain things can focus on what they want. And remember, this will be very opinionated. I'm probably going to have a take or a comment that you won't agree with, but know any critique I have of this game is because of how much I love Borderlands as a franchise, and I also want this to be open discussion below for y'all to vent so we can talk about what we enjoy about the game and how it can be better. I'll keep the trolls out of the comments, just don't be a jackass.
Write in the comments that this is the dumbest shit you've ever heard. I don't fucking care, but please be nice.
Keep it nice, that's all I ask. Let's start with the story of Borderlands 3, the part that gets the most criticism from the community. Since I didn't play this game at launch, I definitely heard through the grapevine a lot of general feelings people had about the story before I'd even played it. Combined with the fact that Anthony Birch, the head writer of Borderlands 2 and who was a consultant on Tales of the Borderlands, was no longer at Gearbox, I had my expectations low for the story when my crew jumped into the game. But overall, when the credits rolled and I looked back on the 20-hour campaign my squad had just played, my thought on the story was mixed. Borderlands 3's story moves the franchise in a new direction without living in the shadow of Handsome Jack. I'm just not sure that that direction is forward. You know Dance Dance Revolution? That's how this game's story feels. It tries to go in every damn direction and ends with very mixed results. But considering that Gearbox had the massive task of getting a team of writers trying to continue a story without its main architect, it's not surprising. They're trying to fill the void of the writer who created such iconic characters and dialogue, and he's not there now. And knowing that, it's easier to analyze why this game's story is a FUSTERCLUCK. You can tell that there were too many people in the writing room who wanted to take this story in grand new directions, and that leads to a narrative that is erratic and all over the place in terms of quality. There are points where it's the best Borderlands story ever, then it's good, then meh, then good, then trash, then Omega trash, then godlike, back to Omega trash, but then wheels back to good. It's a roller coaster with all the highs and lows. And while the story's quality can be crazy and consistent when you're going through it, I never wanted to stop playing. A, because the gameplay loop of this game is so strong, and I'll get to that later, but B, the story never bored me. I've played campaigns that have made me do that, where I have put down the game out of pure boredom. 3 never made me feel that. But this campaign story, regardless, is not the quality it should be for a game that is following up Borderlands 2 and its story. This is a significant step down. Overall, there's stuff I love and stuff I hate, but at the end of the day, it all mixes into alright. I enjoyed a lot of the new cast, familiar faces, certain arcs that happen, and the lore reveals that broaden the universe, but I really dislike certain character choices, the hit or miss comedy, and retcons the writing team made in the overall narrative. People have every right to critique this campaign's story for not being up to its predecessor standards. So with that out of the way, let's jump into my spoiler thoughts on the story. I'll give you a few seconds to jump ahead to the gameplay section, but if you've already played the game or don't care, let's dive in. I'll start with the Calypsos. While I don't personally hate them as villains, they're never as deadly in the game as they were hyped up to be. There was a personal bond that you got with Handsome Jack in 2 that you don't get with the Calypsos in 3. My biggest story concern though going into Borderlands 3 was that the Calypsos were going to be Handsome Jack's kids, or that they were going to emulate him super hardcore, and thankfully they don't. Gearbox actively tried to make Troy and Tyreen their own, so I liked them. They were fun villains, and they work more than they don't to me. The fact these 2 kids with siren powers were able to unite every psycho clan in the galaxy was a fire concept that leads to some badass payoffs. The moments where they bicker and you see the power dynamic between them was entertaining. The twins are not Jack, and it's a positive that Gearbox didn't try to force them to be. And they aren't completely forgettable fodder villains like Zarbadon from pre-sequel or Steel from Borderlands 1, but they never match Jack or Hyperion's level of threat. The fact that all past Vault Hunters aren't present immediately diminishes the danger they pose. If the Children of the Vault is really as deadly as the game hypes them up, then why are Gage, Krieg, Axton, and Salvador not present during the events of the campaign? It immediately nullifies the danger. That's my feeling on the Calypsos. I enjoy the characters and the performances, just don't think they were as spooky, intimidating, or groundbreaking as Gearbox might have liked. The reveal that Tannis is a siren, specifically that she inherited Angel's face-shifting abilities. Dope. Was dragged on far too long though. They spend like 2 full missions stretching out the reveal when it could have had way more impact as a surprise. The second you start getting the siren-like phone calls from her, you know that she's a siren. I think it's dope that she is, it fits well with her character, but the execution of the reveal could have been a lot more engaging. They messed up Lilith, I'm not gonna lie. They have her make some questionable decisions that leave her looking like a crap leader. I felt like Moxie was a better leader when she was just in charge of what is essentially a heist in DLC 1 compared to Lilith, who was leading an army. That, and they don't give her that much to do. She gets her siren powers taken, but we don't really see her struggle with her new normal life. It just immediately goes back to the old, hey killer, go do this. And it feels like a lot of cool character development opportunities were missed. And the most massive miss is the fact that she dies at the end of the game, and they don't even go all the way with it. She has a cool moment, but it's in this limbo of she's dead, but she could also come back though. So you don't feel anything. You just go, oh, the sky's pretty now, and that's it. Lilith will be back. Hopefully they actually do some cool stuff with her next time. The game does a terrible job of continuing certain events of pre-sequel entails. The whole war that was hinted at during pre-sequel, it's still coming apparently. 3 is not the war. It's not even mentioned in the story and relegated to an achievement side mission. For Tails, how come Reese and Vaughn are here, yet we have zero clue what happened to Fiona, Sasha, or Gortys? Like, half of Tails matters, yet the rest just doesn't? This pick and choose inconsistency is just confusing. And everything that happened with the Baroness maybe starting to become a better person at the end of pre-sequel, apparently that never happened. They made her an egotistical then you just kill her. Like, why? Actually, why? It would have been better if she was working alongside Wainwright and her brother to fight against the Calypso. She could have died trying to protect Tannis from Troy, yet you choose to undo all of her character development and then just kill her. Aurelia had a lot of potential, and they just ended it. And this is actually the perfect segue. The number one thing that pissed people off about the story, me included, Maya's death. It is primal ass. I don't know how the hell this got approved. You can tell that they desperately wanted this to be the Roland moment from Borderlands 2, but it never feels that way when the moment happens halfway through the game and never justifies why it's needed. They hyped up the fact that Maya and Ava were going to be mad important in every trailer, yet they never do in the campaign. Maya dies unceremoniously, leaving Ava to just exist. My frustration is not aimed at the character though, it's aimed at the writing team who believed that this scene was acceptable, that Maya's death was necessary. I don't have the hate boner a lot of people have for Ava. She doesn't get enough character development to justify any real emotion from me. She doesn't serve any purpose. That's my biggest complaint with Ava. They don't do anything with her. She fills the role of a typical brat, loots some corpses, shoots some baddies, and then gets Maya's powers at the end. But it never feels like she earns Maya's powers because she never goes through any tangible struggle within the campaign. I don't feel anything about Ava's character because there is none. No relatability, no charm, nothing. Outside of a few dialogue moments that show her geekiness, this child just exists. If Ava's going to be the next Siren whenever Borderlands 4 comes out, they need to evolve her ASAP. But great stuff happened in DLC 4 that gives Ava a lot of potential for growth that still involves Maya. I'll address that more in a bit. That's all my thoughts on the things I didn't like in the campaign. Now let's go to the good stuff, because there is good stuff. The game does a great job of expanding the galaxy. Finally being able to travel beyond Pandora and its moon is done really well. From the new worlds, the things you learn about the other gun manufacturers, to the new characters you meet, my faves definitely being Lorelei, Wainwright, and Clay, the old companions that will return, the personality of your new and improved version of Sanctuary, all help this universe feel so lived in. The cast has phenomenal representation and only helps add more life to the universe. The war on Promethea is easily the best part of the campaign. The battle between Reese and Katagawa, fighting alongside Zero and newcomer Lorelei, defending the people of Promethea. It's a great arc. This could have been the main story for Borderlands 3. There could have been a compelling narrative just based around your crew of Vault Hunters aiding the Atlas Rebellion against Malawan. Sometimes Malawan does a better job at posing a threat than the COV does. It's the planet and section of the story to me that I ended up enjoying the most in the main campaign. The reveal that the Calypsos are the children of Typhon de Leon, the first Vault Hunter, I liked. I think we learned a little too much about Typhon, but getting to meet him, see his regrets, and how his mistakes led to Tyreen and Troy being the way they are, it was low-key heartbreaking, and the reveal had good pacing, unlike Tannis being a siren. There is a ton of lore you learn about sirens and how they work in Borderlands 3. And as a lore nut for stuff like Star Wars, I really enjoy all the cool Easter egg details you find out about the siren mythos. And the last great thing I will mention is a spoiler for DLC 4. If you haven't played the FUSTERCLUCK DLC, I highly recommend doing so, but if you don't care, they retconned Maya's death in the Krieg DLC. Yeah, they made a way for Maya to come back in future stories. Maya apparently has the ability to imbue a part of her soul into an object. That's how Krieg is able to have a perfect image of Maya as well as an infinite backup of her soul just because he obtained an echolog from her before she died. If Maya did that to a goodbye echolog for Krieg, then she damn well did that to her book that is now Ava's. She even mentions in her echolog to Krieg how she feels she failed Ava and wishes she could make it right. Gearbox now has given themselves a golden opportunity to do just that. They can make an expansion where we travel through new parts of Athenas and the 3 crew gets to train Ava and get her more battle ready. Have her interact with Krieg and help him continue to cope and get over Maya's death. Do cool stuff with her pet Hermes, who has one of my favorite creature designs in the Borderlands mythos. I love the little guy. There are ways that they can make Ava a better character now in future content for 3, and I really hope they do. Give her an actual personality and hero's journey, and have it involve Maya in a way that gives her character purpose. The fact that she has this Force Ghost-like infinite form now has the potential for so many stories. She could be what Angel was previously for the new Vault Hunters in Borderlands 4, the siren that helps lead the new crew to their ultimate goal. Maya's journey isn't over yet. It's been reborn, and I'm grateful that they made this decision. It doesn't override how stupid her death is, but I didn't think her coming back was at all possible. Now it is. Can't wait to see what they do with Maya and pray that it helps fix Ava's lack of character. I think that's enough exposition. Let's talk about gameplay. Like the story section, I'll start with the issues before I jump into the great stuff, because in terms of gameplay, 3 does so much more good than it does bad. In Borderlands 2, there were 3 modes of difficulty: Normal, True Vault Hunter, and Ultimate Vault Hunter. In Borderlands 3, it's just Normal and True Vault Hunter. Do not bother with True Vault Hunter right now though. You don't get better loot or fight significantly harder enemies. Nothing about the game changes except all of your missions reset. Until they give you a reason to play True Vault, don't waste your time. Currently it only functions as a super bare bones New Game Plus. You're way better off working on Mayhem levels in normal mode. Gearbox has made 2 free raid style takedowns to Borderlands 3. And they are the definition of a hit and a miss. The Malawan takedown is brilliant. The right amount of difficulty, great enemies, fun bosses, Wotan specifically being one of the best in the whole game, and cool loot. The Guardian Breach though, garbage. Do not play the Guardian Breach. It is terribly imbalanced, aggravating as hell, and not worth the pain despite its kick-ass loot. And Gearbox thought it was a great idea to have a ton of platforming over bottomless pits in a mode where you only have 1 life. It's not super bad considering both raids are free. I'd be more pissed if they were paid. So stick with the Malawan takedown and avoid the Guardian Breach until it gets fixed. And lastly, the item score. Ignore this thing. Item score does 2 things. Jack and shit. I know Gearbox said they made it as a tag to help newcomers, but that number straight up lies to you. There are times where you will get purple weapons that dominate but will have lower item scores, or weapons that are godlike but just have low scores compared to other items. Do not pay attention to this thing. It is clutter on the already messy UI and a genuine waste of your time. But that's it. Those are the only things I don't like gameplay wise. Let's talk about the great gameplay stuff that is the reason why I still play the game to this day. The guns of Borderlands 3. Insane. Some of the best weaponry in any video game. All of the 9 weapon manufacturers bring interesting mechanics. The 5 elements incendiary, electric, corrosive, cryo, and radiation all have utility. The stunning reload animations, weapon handling feels excellent on both controller and keyboard and mouse. The details in the randomly generated attachments, the red text and names of weapons that have countless references to pop culture, and the fact that you will always find something new to enjoy. I have over 300 hours in the game and am still finding reload animations, attachments, and weapons that I have never seen before, even from the base game. The loot system in Borderlands 3 is the best it's ever been, and easily the best part of the game. The combat is also incredibly fun. The enhanced movement and mobility that now allows you to vault terrain and slide feels so satisfying. You feel so much more mobile than you ever have before in a Borderlands game. The flow of combat never gets tiresome, with tons of great enemies and bosses that will challenge you as much as they will reward you. There's so many creatures, aliens, psychos, soldiers, and robots that you will blast into oblivion, and it is always enjoyable to see them melt, freeze, and explode. The visuals and level design for this game are outstanding. The sci-fi skyscrapers of Promethea, the swamps of Eden 6, the canyons of Pandora, the temple of Athenas, the vibrancy of Necrotafeo, and it keeps going. Each world is visually stimulating and helps broaden the Borderlands galaxy beautifully. If I have to nitpick, kinda wish we got a few less sections of Pandora so that Athenas could have gotten fleshed out a bit more, but the new Badlands we travel to in Pandora are new, and the COV bases are fun to break into. Phenomenal visual design all around in this game. The crew of Vault Hunters you get to play with in Borderlands 3 are insanely powerful and fun. The build diversity is bonkers. The skill trees and amount of versatility you get with them are the greatest they've ever been. Finding out what works for your playstyle and then being able to sync that with the right weapons and items to annihilate enemies is one of the most rewarding feelings. So many games drip feed your progress, especially in looter shooters. Borderlands 3 is not one of those games. You feel strong out the gate, and the more time you invest in your character, taking the time to learn them will lead to massive rewards of damage and power. And if you need help looking for a place to start, there are hundreds of content creators who have build guides and can help you get a feeling on how to use a Vault Hunter's strengths best, me included. The voice acting across the board for this game is phenomenal. From the Vault Hunters you'll embark this journey with to the NPCs you'll only interact with for a single side mission, every actor brings their A-game, one of the best ensemble casts for a video game, period. They deserve way more credit than I've seen. Fantastic performances all around in Borderlands 3. On top of that, the overall sound design is superb. The death lines of enemies, the sounds of your weapons, all tied together by the sublime score, all lead to immersing you further into the Borderlands galaxy. There have been 2 temporary seasonal events that Borderlands 3 has done. I didn't get the chance to play the Halloween one, but my man Dimitri liked it, and the community reception seemed to be pretty positive. I did play the Cartels event that popped up in the spring of this year, though. I really enjoyed it. It was nice to have a cool new world to explore and kick-ass weapons to grind for. I'm excited for them to come back when they do, as well as the possibility of Gearbox making more seasonal events in the future. More worlds means more loot, and more chances for the team to try new ideas. Love these free seasonal events, and can't wait for more. Mayhem mode is the new way to challenge yourself. You unlock it after completing the campaign, and it allows you to boost the health and damage on enemies, but also increase the quality of your loot drops. The higher the difficulty though, the more modifiers you will have to deal with, which can hurt or help your gameplay depending on what you choose to roll for. Even though it took a long time for Mayhem to get a solid ground, and even now it still needs some tweaks, like we should just be able to pick our modifiers instead of spamming reroll for a few minutes until we get what we want. It took a while for items to be marked with their Mayhem level, etc, etc. But despite the issues Mayhem has had, and the few that it still does, to me Mayhem is a drastically better way to handle difficulty compared to Ultimate Vault Hunter in Borderlands 2. Ultimate Vault Hunter felt like it was hard just for the sake of it. It was never a fun type of challenge. It ruined the single player experience of 2 for me for a long time. My squad and I have just never been big fans of that type of difficulty. This scalable level of difficulty players get to choose and work up towards, however, is infinitely better to me than normal hard off in Borderlands 2. With Mayhem, players can adjust the difficulty in an approachable and rewarding way. The only cost being that legendaries do lose their wow factor, considering you will get a ton once you get into the higher Mayhem levels, but the anointment system, which allows you to get random buffs and skills on your legendaries, mitigates this issue a good bit. And I feel that when Gearbox eventually decides to bring back the Effervescent rarity, that will also help the loot system and boost the endgame. Speaking of the endgame, you have the previously mentioned raids, aka just the Malawan takedown, Circles of Slaughter, and the Proving Grounds. The Proving Grounds are cool. They are 6 short but fun challenge worlds that are a good test of your skill as well as the chance to earn cool loot. However, I personally enjoy the Circles of Slaughter a little bit more, and that's definitely because Mr. Torg is the hype man for all 3 of them. It's worth it for the loot, the opportunity to test weapons and items, and to have Torg cheering you on. Both, however, are excellent ways to challenge yourself and refine your builds for all your Vault Hunters. How much time you spend in the endgame, though, is ultimately up to you. Are you the type of person who wants to try every gun, play every Vault Hunter, and make a ton of different builds to make the most busted character? Or are you the one and done player who just wants to stick to a single Vault Hunter and just go through everything once? Your playstyle will determine how much you enjoy the endgame. As the type of player who loves to play all the characters as well as make multiple builds for each one, I have countless reasons to keep coming back. Your personal mileage will vary, so know that going in. There are so many phenomenal quality of life changes in Borderlands 3 compared to its predecessors. I'm going to try to list as many as I can, and I already know I'll miss some because this game makes a ton of improvements, so here we go. The minimap has 3 dimensions and shows verticality. You can fast travel from the minimap to a fast travel station, sanctuary, and even to a deployed vehicle whenever you want. You can refill ammo with a single button press at a vending machine. You can mark your trash loot and then sell it with one click instead of having to go one by one. Co-op mode allows loot to be instanced when playing with others so that no matter what level, you will fight enemies and gain loot at just the right level and experience. Badass ranks are now Guardian ranks, which still allow you to unlock permanent upgrades to all of your Vault Hunters, but now also unlock perma-perks like Longer Fight for Your Life, which is great. Iridium is used for cosmetics and also the Fabricator, which allows you to get random legendaries so Iridium doesn't become worthless. Cash is used for ammo, vending machines, and SDUs now, which is a great change. When you open a chest or container, you automatically pick up all the ammo and cash instead of having to spam X square or E. There's a lost loot machine so that if an item falls off an edge or you don't see it for whatever reason, you can head back to Sanctuary and pick it up. You can customize your room, gun skins, individual color palettes, your vehicles, weapons, and upgrades. You can ping enemies, weapons, and objects. You can mail weapons to your friends. The bank not only allows you to hold extra guns beyond your backpack, but now also has utility as a way to transfer weapons and items between your other save files. And there's more that I probably missed too. All in all, Borderlands 3 takes the gameplay loop of 2 and innovates it in damn near every way to create the best looter shooter experience the franchise has ever had, while also setting the bar for the entire genre. An experience I know I can always revisit both solo and with friends to have a fantastic time. And that credit all goes to Gearbox. They never abandoned this game. Despite the mixed community reception at launch for consoles in the Epic Store as well as the plethora of bugs, they have never stopped working on this game. For like the past 4 months specifically, we have had weekly hotfixes and updates. Ever since Mayhem 10 has found its balance, the game improves every week. Massive waves of weapon buffs, character buffs, and constant bug fixes to make the game a better experience for everyone. Gearbox listens, and there are few studios that have this level of communication with their fan base. I wish all games had devs who care and have this level of transparency. And this isn't a game that wastes time on balance or how it can be monetized like a mobile game or has to be the most groundbreaking gaming experience. It's just more Borderlands, passionately crafted by a staff who pours their heart and soul into this game. And as a fan of the Borderlands franchise since 2012, it always feels great to come back to this game because I know it's being designed and created by people who love it as much as I do. Flawed, but fun. Borderlands as it's always been. Now that my thoughts on the base game are done, let's dive into the 4 main DLC expansions for Borderlands 3, and if you should get them. I'll break them up and grade them individually. DLC 1, Moxie's Heist to the Handsome Jackpot, started the Season Pass cycle on a banger. This DLC pretty much checks off every box that I want to see in a Borderlands expansion. It has a great story that helps add to the lore of Handsome Jack in a refreshing way. The characters are fun, love seeing the doppelganger return and being done justice. The narrative balances comedy and tension well. The music and visuals complement each other beautifully for your entire journey throughout the Hyperion Casino. The campaign is just the right length with a ton of great side missions to boot, with a plethora of new casino-themed guns to enjoy. Jackpot gets an S rank. It starts the Season Pass cycle off strong and kicks ass in pretty much every department. DLC 2, Guns, Love, and Tentacles, The Marriage of Wainwright and Hammerlock, much like its name, is a messy DLC. Let's get the bad out of the way. This is my least favorite story in the entirety of Borderlands 3. More than Maya's death, more than what they did to the Baroness, more than the up and down inconsistency of the campaign, because this DLC story pisses me off at a personal level, so please allow me to vent. I mentioned earlier that one of the things that Borderlands 3's campaign does really well is its diversity. You see a lot of different people and characters, and it all feels well designed. The representation is excellent. Well, the representation is pretty trash here. The wedding isn't what this story is about. It is completely sidelined for the shallow, pathetic, unoriginal story about these two scientists who fell in love, got cursed, and are trying to resurrect a monster. Gearbox had a lot of great ideas for a narrative here. There's so many Lovecraftian themes they could have had unique takes on, yet they throw all potential to the wayside for a story that's banal and mind-numbingly boring. Moreover, they waved the representation flag all over this expansion's marketing, only to bait the player base by giving a story that is only going to get critical acclaim from homophobes. And homophobes don't deserve to play Borderlands. They don't deserve anything. My point is that Gearbox, if you're going to go through the effort to do all this marketing to say,
"We are inclusive AF,"
then actually follow through with it by making a story that looks like you give a shit. Don't do this borderline queerbait crap. Considering how well Wainwright and Hammerlock's relationship was portrayed in the campaign, one of its actual redeeming qualities, it saddens me that y'all reduce these two characters I adore only for the sake of marketing. It doesn't matter that the wedding actually happens when you don't treat it like it does. Making the wedding 1 minute long at the very end and its after party a 15-minute side mission is a trash-ass excuse of representation. If this expansion kept things simple with the plot about hunting beasts with the happy couple engage and actually stuck to that, this would have been a drastically better DLC. So just be better. Please. Have confidence that your characters can be themselves and do not bait your fanbase with callous representation. Sorry, I've been waiting to get this one off my chest for a while now. I warned y'all about my opinions, didn't I? Rant over. Let's continue. The rest of Guns, Love, and Tentacles is actually pretty good. I love the aesthetic of Zylorgos. I feel like someone in the design team was like, hey, let's take Hoth from Star Wars, but make it Halloween 24/7. And then they just did it. You feel it in the world design, enemies, guns, score, all aspects being done really well. The weapons, class mods, and artifacts are insanely powerful. You get your money's worth with them alone. The final boss is really lackluster, however, and it ends up bleeding into the meh category along with the story. So that's pretty much it for this expansion. It has phenomenal aesthetic, weapons, mods, enemies, and side missions, but lacks in story and bosses. And if it didn't have Gage, I probably would have disliked this a lot more, but she's actually done really well in this DLC, and she does, at the end of the day, save the story from being entirely forgettable to passable. So I'm giving DLC 2 a B rank. It's good, but just barely for me personally. DLC 3, Bounty of Blood, A Fistful of Redemption, is a pretty interesting DLC. It's the most drastic tone shift of any of the DLCs. There's hardly any humor, but when there is, it is very calculated humor, and it's pretty good. The story is a classic Western, McConaughey-style narrator and everything. However, it's a tale that's only going to have the strongest appeal to people who like Westerns. My personal squad didn't really enjoy this expansion as much as I did, but I'm biased because I really enjoy old school Westerns like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Your enjoyment of Westerns will definitely impact your enjoyment of the story. And while I did enjoy it for its style and one haunting moment, it doesn't have any significant emotional impact or game-changing narrative. Like all of 3's DLC though, it has phenomenal aesthetic with the Asian Western dragon fusion. The guns are insane, some of the best guns in the entire game. The gunslinger enemies and bosses are all really memorable and fun to farm. The only real complaint I have personally with this DLC is the score. It's the most inconsistent score in any Borderlands game. There are tracks that are really good like Asphalt Peaks and certain boss tunes, and then there's Blast Plains Combat, which is this single high-pitched violin note on loop, and it's just garbage. There's points where the music really helps your flow of combat, and other times where you just want to turn the music off because it's aggravating. And that's the first time I've ever said that for a Borderlands game. So all in all, I'm going to give DLC 3 a B rank. I think it's a DLC that nails its vision with its Western tale, fantastic bosses, godlike weapons, and compelling visuals, but the inconsistent music and so-so side missions hold it back. This is the most hit or miss DLC, and your personal favoritism towards Westerns will definitely determine how much you enjoy this expansion. And finally, Krieg and the Fantastic FUSTERCLUCK. This DLC is my favorite expansion for Borderlands 3, the best Borderlands expansion since Assault on Dragon's Keep personally, and my favorite Borderlands story in general since Tales of the Borderlands. This story is the first time while playing Borderlands 3 where I felt the heart in a narrative that was on par with Borderlands 2 and Tales. The Jekyll and Hyde back and forth between Sane and Psycho Krieg is extremely entertaining. They do something wild with Maya that I talk about in spoilers. The dialogue is well written across the board, from sentimental moments to the jokes. It's the perfect balance of comedy and sincerity. The visuals are out of this world. You feel like you're on drugs for so much of this DLC, traveling through Krieg's warped, bloody past and fighting bosses unlike anything you faced before. Sapphire Starlight in particular being one of my favorite levels in the whole game. The score pops off way harder than it has any right to. Some of the best music in the entirety of the Borderlands franchise. The weapons are few, but insanely powerful and fun. And the brand new shield, the Plus Ultra, is one of the best additions to the whole game. If I had to nitpick, the side missions are wickedly simple, but considering the fact that this entire expansion was worked on from Gearbox devs' homes with everything in the world going on, and they were still able to develop a beautiful expansion that is so well designed on every level, it would be petty of me to complain when the heart and passion of the people that worked on this DLC is on full display. S rank. This expansion is Borderlands at its absolute best, and I cannot recommend it enough. So all in all, a pretty damn good season pass. The stories start and end strong with some mixed good in between, but these expansions make up in spades across the board with incredible weapons, worlds, and items that will keep you coming back. So with all of that being said, what's my final review of Borderlands 3 at the end of year 1? On the story front, the campaign is mid. Got 2 fantastic expansions, a hit or miss one, and an okay one. The free content is all pretty great outside of the Guardian Breach, and the gameplay loot combo is phenomenal throughout the campaign and all of its expansions. Price definitely is a factor here though. I paid $50 for the game and its season pass when it released on Steam. I definitely have gotten way more than my money's worth and will continue to. Regardless, wait till this game is on sale. Get the game and the season pass for $50 or less when you can. The holidays are right around the corner, and with 3 being announced for next gen, a Game of the Year edition is definitely coming soon. If you're a newbie to Borderlands, I still recommend starting with Borderlands 2 and then going to 3. And if you played Borderlands 3 near launch but then dropped the game, I'd say give it another shot. There's enough content now that warrants a revisit, and there will definitely be some expansions that will make you happy. So with everything this game has to offer, at the end of year 1, I am giving Borderlands 3 an A rank. Could the campaign story have been better? Definitely. But it has great moments. The things that the campaign does right don't deserve to be written off. And an overall mid-tier story does not override the vibrant gameplay, combat, aesthetics, and loot system that will keep you engaged for dozens if not hundreds of hours. It's a game that quite literally sticks to its guns, and by doing so, is able to craft a gameplay loop that outperforms its predecessors as well as its contemporaries. It is one of my top 5 favorite games of all time on gameplay alone. But if you haven't liked looter shooters in the past, or don't like the Borderlands art style, 3 doesn't do anything significantly different that would make you change your mind. That, the story issues, and the technical problems older PCs and consoles will have with this game hold it back from an S rank. I feel like my great rating of A rank is fitting for Borderlands 3's current state at the end of year 1. Because the future of Borderlands 3 looks pretty great. Console players are getting the ultimate hookup soon with a free next-gen upgrade option and 4-player co-op. For the first time, we're going to get 4 skill trees for our Vault Hunters. It's about to be crazy. I hope Gearbox learns from the first pass and keeps the creative juices flowing for more worlds to explore in the future. Borderlands 3 is a game that can, and I want, to have a 5-year cycle of content with various expansions and updates. I don't want Gearbox to even start development of Borderlands 4 till like 2023 at the earliest. There is so much this game has already done and can continue to do. And I hope that Gearbox continues to make the most of it by continuing to innovate 3 and push it forward, so that when the time comes to start development for Borderlands 4, it can take the franchise to the next level. If you love Borderlands content, I recently have been making build guides over the past few months and have been having a blast with those. And I'll definitely have a lot more Borderlands 3 videos and Awesomazing essays coming through the end of the year. This is definitely the biggest undertaking of a video I've made, with over 20 script pages, so if you enjoyed, please leave a like, and if you want to see more Borderlands content, Awesomazing essays, and more, hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a ton. Thank you for watching, stay safe, and have a blessed day.